Hi, my name is Alejandro Perez Perez, and this is the AI Coffee Podcast. Every week, you will have one disruptive aspect of technology and artificial intelligence for the time you drink a cup of coffee. Today, we are going to talk about the 10 things I wish I knew before starting with AI. So, getting with AI, working with AI could be really, really exciting. I think AI nowadays is like a trendy topic. Most of you have been maybe working with artificial intelligence in maybe machine learning models. Also, maybe you could be curious about how ChatGPT and all that NLP models or AI models, generative AI models work. And this is a very, very, let's say, popular topic nowadays, and it could be really, really nice. But still, as a professional working already for a couple of years on data and AI with different projects, different aspects, I have something to say. And this episode, if you are starting on AI, this episode is for you because I will tell you the 10 things you should consider while starting with AI, which is really, really relevant. So the first thing is that data is the foundation of everything. And sometimes data is the like the elephant in the room. Like when you are starting a project with artificial intelligence, most of the projects they don't have enough data, or even they don't have data, and they want you as a developer to create a machine learning model, an AI model, a really powerful AI that could predict a lot of things or could generate data based on a lot of requirements. But you know what? They don't have data. They don't have nothing to work with, and this is more frequent than you think because for you or for me or for like a person working with AI, it's obvious that you need past data to train the artificial intelligence just to predict the future. That's more or less how it works most of the times. So you need this data. You need something to work with. You cannot directly arrive there and create magical stuff. And with that magical stuff, you create a machine learning or an artificial intelligence. And also, sometimes you have a really, really intense requirements, but okay, you don't have an structured database, you don't have data, you have sometimes you have like tons of excels and structure with no traceability, no explainability, and sometimes it's a mess. And at that time you need to say, you know what, we cannot do this work, we cannot do it, we cannot it's like I'm not a witch. I cannot create magical stuff. I really need that data because when we are talking about AI, we're talking about the statistics at the end of the day, and we need past data for understanding the future. That's how it works. So sometimes it's complicated. So the second thing, the second tip, is that understanding business needs is just as important as the technical skills. Sometimes the technical aspects, of course, I think this is a basis of a technical person working with AI. But it's not enough. It's not enough. And now we are in the AI world. As AI experts, we should know that coding is like something that little by little is not going to be something even that we are going to do because they are little by little different artificial intelligence that code even better than us. So if you are a really good programmer coder in Python, Java, or something, I think you should know that soon there is going to be an AI that is going to code better than you. But the good thing is that this AI, even though it's going to code better than you and than me and that almost everyone in the world, they there is going to be someone asking to this AI to do something. And the way you, as an expert on this specific coding or code or language or technology, the way you provide examples or you guide this AI is the value you are going to have in the future. And of course, if you have never worked in Java, I think it's almost impossible that you can provide good prompts to an artificial intelligence to create a JavaScript. But if you are an expert on Java, of course, you are going to work even better if you understand the needs, you really understand this business part, you really connect with the business needs, the people working for this project or the other stakeholders involved, but also you know how to express in, let's say, technical language to the AI, um, this specific problem. So this is very, very important. Then third one is that there is no one size fits all model. I mean, um, you all know that there is like specific models for predicting the future, also for creating generative AI models, or there is like a lot of different models, which at the end of the day are different functions that work well. But the bad point is like maybe for one specific domain or one specific use case or one specific data set, there is one specific model that works better than another one. And this is something that I think most of people try to forget, because there is like trendy models that usually works well, but still, as an expert, you need to try and you need to validate that. Okay, even though we know that maybe XGBoost, for example, is a very popular and powerful model, maybe for your use case is not working well, because there is another way to approach this problem with another model that suits better. So this is very, very difficult sometimes, but also where you can create value. Because as I mentioned before, soon there is going to be an AI that is going to create an artificial intelligence model and machine learning model, just, I don't know, by asking it in natural language, in English or Spanish or German. But which model is going to use this AI? This is you, the professional that is going to ask for an XGBoost model or for a classification model of X or Y or whatever hyperparameters. And this is only you that is going to control it. So this is a good thing and also a bad thing. Then, 4 point, AI models can be resource intense. And it means like, wow, sometimes you cannot even imagine how much energy and time you can consume if you do a machine learning model bad. If you, for example, or well, even if you do it well, but you don't have the good, let's say, computer or a server working, or like the computational power is not enough. Yeah, maybe it's like something you need to think about, because we try to think that better is better. Like you have a better model, usually like it solves better the problem. But sometimes the reality is like, okay, maybe we prefer to have something quicker and cheaper. This is the real world, rather than something better. And for some specific models, it doesn't really matter if it's like the like the metrics, the evaluation metrics, like you usually say. So the model we are training, for example, it's like 100% good or 98 or 99, something really extraordinary, or if it's 70 but it costs really like a fraction of it, of the cost of training the other model. So for others, of course, we need a lot of precision and recall and good metrics, but for the other ones we prefer to have a cheaper model. So this is something, yeah, I recommend you to think about as well. So the fifth one is that ethics and bias are central to responsible AI development. And this is something I always say when I'm doing a course or a small course or a lecture or something, that AI is something that could create a lot of harm if you do it badly. So if you are creating a machine learning model predicting, for example, if you are given or not a loan for buying a house, for example, if you set as variables while you are creating this model, you set, for example, the origin of the person, if it's a male or a female, or I don't know, many other variables like that, it could be a bias model. Like, for example, for male, the conditions are going to be different than for female. And maybe you, as the product owner, as a company, maybe as bank in that case, in charge of that model, you don't want to have this kind of bias and problems, in your product. So it's very relevant to create ethical and responsible AI models, because at the end of the day, they could be used to make decisions for people and harming them to, for example, buying a house and creating a life. Even though if you directly take, for example, these variables out of the model and you focus on other quantitative and objective variables, you do the work even better. Because of course there are, maybe for some specific, I don't know, medical reasons or social reasons, maybe you need to take different variables for the model, but maybe for others it doesn't really matter. You maybe, for that specific thing of the loans and banks, maybe you just want to have the salary or the debts they have, or the, I don't know, other kind of numerical stuff, and that could be even much more relevant than just, I don't know, if this person was born in one country or another, for example. Then the sixth one is that continuous learning is non-negotiable. And this is sometimes complicated because, wow, we are working as AI experts, machine learning experts, data experts, technology experts. Yeah, there's like different kind of names, but it doesn't really matter. We are working for a field of, like, with a lot of change, and everything changes really quickly. And it means, like, if you want to be on that field, something you need to do is maybe take like 10% of your time, that it could be maybe 1 month during the whole year, or maybe some weeks or some days, for training. And really, it's really necessary, because maybe you say, okay, I'm good with that, I know how to do this and this and this, but it's really quickly when you discover yourself that everything has passed really quickly, and like you are not on that. And it, at that moment, it's a little bit harder to get it. You can do it always, you can train and upskill, but still it's something sometimes difficult to do. So I recommend you to do continuous learning. Of course, this is not the focus of your work. We are not, I mean, we cannot study the whole day, and hopefully, because, well, if you want, if you like studying as me and training and doing new things, it could be interesting. But still, it's like, okay, you need to focus on, okay, keep part of my time for learning. Also, it's like interoperability and explainability are concepts that are very relevant. And it's nice because when we are technical, these are two concepts that we usually don't talk about. But whenever we go a little bit higher and we go to um, GovTech conferences, or um, I don't know, companies conferences about AI or things like that, they usually talk about interoperability. And actually, it's a big thing, because imagine you are, I don't know, Spanish government or Spanish civil servant, for example, and you want to create something with the EU institutions, for example. So why, if you have a database and the entity name, so the name of people on that database, you have it in Spanish, but then you want to connect with the European Union database and it's in English, for example? So you are not going to have, if you don't work with that, you are not going to have forever, ever. You are going to have a connection, and maybe you are going to lose data. And wow, imagine that situation. It's easily very difficult to work and to reuse the data and to connect with other companies or institutions. So this is a very relevant topic: interoperability between different companies, different data sets, different products, different everything. It's very difficult sometimes, but also explainability, which it's also a good thing. And sometimes when we talk about AI, it feels like we are talking about black boxes, because we have like a model and we say this model, for example, taking this example of the loans I said before. So yeah, we can say you are not given this loan because our AI or our model or our systems decided not to give it to you. And then I could say, okay, and how can I change my profile maybe in a couple of months or years for having this loan? So usually we don't have an answer because the results of these models, if you don't work with them well, they usually are yes or no, like 0 1, to be honest. Usually it's more than that, but it's like yes or no. You are given the loan, you are not. So it's like yes or no. But why? You cannot know usually. So it's very relevant to work with these models and to create something we call it explainability. And explainability is just telling, okay, so you are not given the loan and the variables that affects you the most for having this negative score are this and this. So if you work with that and you come back maybe, or the conditions are different or something, you could have another decision at the end. And this is very very necessary because if now we are in a world that we have more and more AIs and models everywhere deciding for a lot of things, and yeah, it's nice to track how they made the decisions and why. And usually because if they made wrong decisions, biased decision, it's nice to know and it's nice to correct them. So yeah, this is also very important. Then also is that the eighth recommendation is that AI projects often require cross-functional collaboration. And it's something that it's helpful. Actually, sometimes we see from the technical perspective that wow, I need to talk with a lot of people and to take data from these people and validate it with another one. And there is another one talking to another team. And usually it is like that when you are in a project. But sometimes it's really helpful because when you are focusing on creating a machine learning model, or yeah, when you are coding, let's say, or working with data, sometimes you forget the whole context. And it's really nice to have these kind of people around you saying, don't forget this context, let's focus on this, let's be pragmatic and focus on the business needs exactly and forget the rest. Because of course, if you are with the small data sets, it's okay. But if you are with super big data set with thousands or millions of records, and then maybe you have hundreds of variables, and sometimes you forget what you are doing. You are just working with the data. You are forgetting the entity. What we are talking about. So it's really nice to have this vision from other people, other kind of experts with you. So the ninth one is that testing and monitoring models post deployment is essential. Something really funny is that when you are like creating a model, or it could be even for coders, like everything you code, when you are working on your computer, usually it works well. And then you say, okay, let's deploy it, let's publish it, let's put it for everyone. And then you discover that it doesn't work for the rest. And this is something very typical. I guess that even for designers, this is something very typical, but it's also very necessary because you need to first try it yourself. Whenever you think it's ready, you deploy it, and then you discover a lot of bugs, a lot of problems, a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors, a lot of different things. And this is why you need to test it and monitor it maybe 1 week later, 1 month later, 2 months later, and continue like that. And it sometimes I feel it like a car, for example. So you buy a car. When you buy a car, I have never done it, but I can imagine that when you buy a car, you are given a new and perfect car. But if you drive with this car, maybe like 6 months later, you could have a problem, or 1 year later. But still, it's nice to go to the technician to see if everything goes nice. Maybe you have a problem in the wheel, or you have a problem in the engine. But this is the same. This is the same. You can have a data solution. You can have a model prepared for you. Then maybe 6 months later, a change in the data, a change in the whatever needs to be done, needs to be applied. Some fix needs to be applied just because it's like a car. It continues driving, and little by little, it has problems. So this is very relevant. Don't forget the models you have created just because they were perfect, because some days later, some months later, I promise that they are little by little, day by day, becoming worse. And then the 10th is that don't underestimate the complexity of deployment. Wow, this is the most important one. Um, I think we all think more optimistically about what we are doing. So when we plan, for example, to deploy a model in 1 month, or we to work in a model for 1 month, it's usually better to say to the customer 2 months, just because, like, at least from my experience, 80% or 90% of the times I say 2 months because I was thinking 1 month. It is at the end of the day 1 month and 3 weeks, and because it's natural, you think of yourself usually that you have a lot of energy every day, that everything is going to be perfect, that the data is perfectly clean, that you are going to be given the file on time with the variables you need, like everything perfect. Usually we are, I don't know, well, it depends on the person, of course, but for example, me, I'm optimistic, and I usually think that everything is going to be perfect, and me, I will be perfect every day. I won't be sick, I won't be tired anytime. It's going to be perfect, and the model, the computer, everything is going to work perfectly, everything. And then what it happens is that reality is more honest than you. And then reality comes and says, you know what, today you're going to be sick. And tomorrow the computer is going to be broken. And then next week you are going to receive the data wrong and you need to ask for that. And then you are going to lose for some hours just because yeah, you're going to try the data, it's not going to work, and then yeah. And then you're going to lose also one day 3 weeks later because well, you plan to use one model, but at the end of the day, yeah, you were trying and you discover that this model doesn't fit well, and you go to another one and then it works, but still you're losing little by little, one day, one day, one day. And then yeah, it's nice to have this buffer time, because it's much better to say 2 months and finish 1 week before, rather than saying 1 month and finish 3 weeks later. And sometimes, well, it will depend on the project, of course, but most of the projects, people are not in a hurry. Most of the times they want to do it, let's say, on time, good. But if you, as a technical person, say we need 2 months, it's better for them to understand, okay, 2 months more or less. So it's nice, it's perfectly understandable. And then if you finish around that specific deadline, it's usually okay. But what it doesn't work if is you say 1 month, then it's 2 months or 1 month and a half. And if you do this like every time, yeah, you are not going to be perceived as a professional, because yeah, no one is going to rely on you and on your deadlines. And of course, things could happen. Even though you can have this buffer time, you could go even further, because maybe, I don't know, a super strong thing happen and destroys the project and something like that. But of course, then you need communication. But this is something you can explain, like, I don't know, we thought 2 months, but when we started looking at the data, you didn't have any kind of file. What do you want to do? So now of course, if you don't finish on time, um it's understandable. But still, it's like, if you have some requirements and you want to do these estimations, don't underestimate the complexity of everything, because sometimes it's more complex than you think. And with that, I finish the 10 things I would like to know if I was starting now in AI. So I hope you liked it. Let me also, what do you think about that? If you have the same 10 things or you have others, I will be more than open to know about your things. And yeah, let's stay in touch for the next episode. And thank you very much for being here one more week. Subscribe, press like button, press 5 stars if you're on Spotify, and all that stuff that really helps me to continue. Okay, have a wonderful day. Bye bye.